On the brink of about 14,000 hours of where will LeBron go coverage if they lose this game. Will that get halted? Here are both sides prepping for the big one tonight.
I don't enjoy being in a position where it's like, you lose and go home, but just try to extend the series, as long as I can, and just try to put myself and my team in position to be able to continue to play. So I haven't always been successful, obviously. I haven't won every elimination game, but I've had some really good games, and I've had some subpar games as well.
As these series go on, it gets harder and harder to win games. And you have to play with great force on both ends of the court. You're playing against really good teams, and here you're trying to, knock off a group that has a number of champions, and obviously a generational player. So it's a heck of a challenge.
I feel like in Game 4 we did a really good job. I think we won all 3 quarters except the first. So I think a good start is really important here tonight, but we're capable of doing it. We just got to get it done.
All right, we get in the know once again, and I always bring this up. Notice that he has the team of producers in his back pocket because he's 10 times the size of all of us. Here he is, Mr. Shooter's Paradise himself. 3D. DZ, you've been on this series. You've been around it. Everyone's going to talk about, that. Could this be LeBron's last game? How much of the buzz has been the story of the game? How much in that city is the buzz about maybe the last one for LeBron tonight?
Casey, I have to be honest. I'm so tired of the question, but you hit it right on the head. Listen to local sports talk radio. Listen to people at the hotel around town. Yes, Grant and Rip, I went for my long annual walk because why? Because the sun was out today in Cleveland. Everyone was stopping me saying, what do you think if the Cavs lose? Do you think LeBron's leaving? I said, can we at least get to the game first and see what happens? Let's let these guys play the game before we even get there first. LeBron's playing at a high level. What's been consistent in this series is the role players are making shots at home. So most people think Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, guys of that nature will make some shots, and LeBron, of course, will be LeBron and set the table. And lastly, whoever smacks who first in that first quarter seems to ride the wave for the rest of the game.
D. Scott, another question. We hear a lot about Kyle Korver not being in that first quarter last game. How important for the Cleveland Cavaliers, as T. Lou talked about, getting him early in the game to try to get him going, just to get more spacing out on the floor?
To get more spacing on the floor, but more importantly, Rip, he has to make shots like he's proved to us in games 3 and 4, like everyone else that comes off the bench. All the word and all the chatter you're seeing behind me right now, it's about shot making. Make shots early, because this team's all about riding the wave. When they make shots, they play better defense, and obviously they rebound the ball much better.
3D, G. Hill here. Hey, we know the playoffs, all about adjustments. We saw Brad Stevens make a change with the starting lineup. He inserted Baines for Morris. Do you anticipate here with Cleveland, their backs against the wall, maybe Ty Lue making a change with the starting lineup, or maybe a different rotation here in Game 6?
I think more of the rotation, Mr. Hall of Famer, because here's why. You want to keep everyone in their right positions, but more importantly, make sure you have enough shot making on the floor, because I think LeBron will put his best foot forward in the first quarter, because we know LeBron pays attention to every little thing. And the theme is, let's smack first. We're at home, get our crowd involved, and then ride their way for the rest of the game.
DZ, on the Boston side, to your point, I've been saying they get off to a good start. They got a shot here even on the road. But we saw a lot of turning the ball over, especially in the first half of both of those 2 games in Cleveland. How much is the message for Boston to hold on to the ball and become more careful with it on the road?
That's a great question, Casey, because that's going to be very important early in the ball game and obviously throughout the game, who takes care of the turnover game. But let's call it what it is. I know you're going to run the interview a little later in the show with Al Horford. I was able to talk to Al on camera and off camera. And it's unfortunate for him. He's been trying to get past LeBron James since the Atlanta Hawks. When they won 60 wins that game, they got swept by LeBron James. And now he's one game close to going to the finals. And G. Hill and Rip, you know this. A lot of guys play their whole careers and never get to the finals. So I think Al Horford is going to have a big ball game tonight.
And DC, we all know about LeBron's great statistics, especially from a scoring standpoint. but how much do he trust his guys, especially in an elimination game right now where all eyes is going to be on him? How aggressive is he going to come out scoring, or is he going to come out pretty much and read the table and make all the correct passes and plays that he's been doing his whole career?
Well, I think throughout this series he's been done a good job of mixing it up. Obviously, game one was doing a whole lot of reading, trying to figure it out. But I think in the closeout game, Rip, I think he's going to be more aggressive, more in attack mode to make the defense be on their heel, to make them want to help more, so now he can facilitate, and now those role players have wide open shots instead of contested shots.
Hey, 3D, you talked about Cleveland. They had to be able to make shots. But we got one of the best shot makers in the history of the NBA yourself. Is that jumper right there? Is it you still, that flamethrower, is it still working? And will you suit up for those Cavs here in Game 6?
Hey, look, man, the one thing I know, man, just got to lube it up a little bit and make sure you leave it, baby. You got to leave it every time you let it fly.
All right, you can get all of his apparel over at, what is it, shootersparadise3d.com?
Boy, checks in the mail, Casey. Checks in the mail.
Thank you very much. Somebody's
Need that hookup, man. I need that hookup,
All right,
3D.
easy, be well.
Players only.
Come on, Hall of Fame. Yeah, I got all my guys. Players only, baby. Players
Oh, boy.
only.
Sideline only. There he is. Last night, speaking of statements, Chris Paul and company shocking many by going up in the series, but unfortunately losing Chris at least for Game 6. He's officially now out with the hamstring injury that kept him out of the final minutes of that game. But for Mike D'Antoni and company, life goes on. The Rockets a win away from the finals.
I will play exact same way. Just one other option that is pretty good, obviously, and we don't have that, but other guys are going to have to play. We have to play well, and we have to play better. We have to shoot the ball better, and just different things. But it will not change anything that we do or how we do it.
Business as usual. You know, guys got to step up and make plays. Obviously, Chris has been playing extremely well. You know, hopefully, a speedy recovery, which I know will happen. An opportunity like all year long for guys to step up and take advantage of an unbelievable opportunity.
I'm going to look for ways to get even better than yesterday, and I was definitely like to hit a couple of threes that I had great looks on yesterday. But we can get better as a team, and like I said, Chris is that's a very tough loss, and but I still think we always find ways to win during the season.
Well, there's a lot of drama. We wanted 2 great series. We got it. And we've also got a lot of conversation now with that injury to Chris Paul. Welcome inside our studios in Atlanta. It is Game Time presented by State Farm. Casey Stern, the Hall of Famer, Grant Hill, and Hall of Famer in my mind, Rip Hamilton. Let me ask you guys about this, because clearly you guys know how much of a competitor you both do personally that Chris is. Everybody kind of just sat there with their stomachs ripped sinking watching him get injured last night.
Oh, it was very tough to see just when you look at the history of his injuries, especially in playoff situations. But he pretty much willed this team to victory last night. I mean, even at the end of the game, when you seen that he hurt the hamstring, he had a little conversation with the trainer, and he's like, pretty much, let me finish this game out. But hopefully he has a speedy recovery and is able to come back for Game 7.
Look, hamstrings, this is not usually an injury you come back right away. We've already seen Ricky Rubio, for example, be done for a series and do a team in with it. Game 6, is this a punt Game 6 and all the marbles for Game 7? Hope that we can get 80% of Chris Paul maybe a few days from now?
No question. They announced he'd be out Game 6, as you said. Game 7, get a lot of treatment between now and then. Hope he can be back. I will say this for the Rockets. They've played a lot of basketball this year without Chris Paul, and they played well. Now, they're not playing against the Golden State Warriors teams during those regular season games. But, yeah, this team is going to still try to go out there and compete. But it's going to be tough because Chris Paul has been huge on both ends of the floor. And his leadership, his presence, I think his team feeds off of that. So he'll be missed in Game 6. Hopefully, he'll be back for Game 7.
Rip, you look at 2 things that absolutely have to happen if Houston's going to win somehow and surprise. I think everybody, the line's double digits at this point, I believe, to open. When you sit there and you look at Eric Gordon, who now takes that role of CP in the lineup, and James Harden, you figure, got to do a lot better than what we saw from him in game number 5.
Yeah, I think the most important factor in the game is for Houston to get in transition. Because if they try to play a half-court set, Golden State can really load up on James Harden. And Eric Gordon got to be the same aggressive basketball player he's been all playoffs. He got to be a scorer. But I'm looking to see who else is he going to bring in, because he's shortened his lineup in playing 7 guys. Is Joe Johnson going to get some time out the floor to be another playmaker on the floor. But Eric Gordon got to go out there continuously, get out there in transition, make plays, and continue to be aggressive out there. If he can do that, James Harden can get in transition, knock down the open three. Good things can happen for Houston.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, we're going to get into this series a little bit more now, handing this game to Golden State. But just to touch on it specifically with the injury, if you're sitting there on Golden State, you can't let yourself mentally drop whatsoever and think this is going to be easy because CP3 is not on the floor.
No question. You have to really, you have to seize the day here. You have to take advantage of this opportunity, same kind of focus, same attention. Look, the bottom line, you lose this game, you're out. And so this is a veteran team. It's a team that's had their backs against the wall a few years ago against Oklahoma City, down 3 games to 1, fought back. So this team has some character, but they're going to have to come out and play. Houston is still a very good team. And look, I even said, I hope Chris Paul is back for Game 7. Yes. I said that earlier, because I'm assuming it's going to be a Game 7. Houston's going there to win the game. So, Golden State has to be prepared, has to be focused, but they have a golden opportunity here to get some momentum and try to force